to the Daily Bite. I'm your host, Pastor Steve Andrews.
Let's read from 1 Chronicles chapter 27. This is the number of the people of Israel, the heads of fathers' houses, the commanders of thousands and hundreds, and their officers who served the king in all matters concerning the divisions that came and went, month after month throughout the year, each division numbering 24,000. And Jashabim the son of Zabdiel was in charge of the first division in the first month. In his division were 24,000. He was a descendant of Perez, and was chief of all the commanders. He served for the first month. Dodai the Ahathite was in charge of the division of the second month, and his division were 24,000. The third commander for the third month was Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada the chief priest. In his division were 24,000. This is the Benaiah who was a mighty man at the 30 and in command of the 30. Amizabad, his son, was in charge of his division. Asahel, the brother of Joab, was fourth for the fourth month, and his son Zebediah after him. In his division were 24,000. The fifth commander for the fifth month was Shamhuth, the Israelite. In his division were 24,000. Sixth for the sixth month was Ira, the son of Ikesh the Tekoite. In his division were 24,000. Seventh for the seventh month was Helez the Pelonite of the sons of Ephraim. In his division were 24,000. Eighth for the eighth month was Sibbecai the Hushathite of the Zerahites. In his division were 24,000. Ninth for the ninth month was Abiezer of Anathoth, a Benjaminite. In his division were 24,000. Tenth for the 10th month was Maharai of Nethophah of the Zerahites. In his division were 24,000. 11th for the 11th month was Benaiah of Pirathon of the sons of Ephraim. In his division were 24,000. 12th for the 12th month was Heldai the Netophathite of Othniel. In his division were 24,000. Over the tribes of Israel for the Reubenites, Eleazar the son of Zichri was chief officer. For the Simeonites, Shephatiah the son of Micah. For Levi, Hashabiah the son of Kemuel. For Aaron, Zadok. For Judah, Elihu, one of David's brothers. For Issachar, Omri the son of Michael. For Zebulun, Ishmaiah the son of Obadiah. For Naphtali, Jeremoth the son of Azrael. For the Ephraimites, Hoshea the son of Azaziah. For the half-tribe of Manasseh, Joel the son of Pedaiah. For the half-tribe of Manasseh in Gilead, Edo the son of Zechariah. For Benjamin, Jaziel the son of Abner. For Dan, Azarel the son of Jeroham. These were the leaders of the tribes of Israel. David did not count those below 20 years of age, for Yahweh had promised to make Israel as many as the stars of heaven. Joab the son of Zeruiah began to count, but did not finish. Yet wrath came upon Israel for this, and the number was not entered in the Chronicles of King David. Over the king's treasuries was Asmaveth the son of Adael, and over the treasuries in the country, in the cities, in the villages, and in the towers was Jonathan the son of Uzziah. And over those who did the work of the field for tilling the soil was Ezri the son of Caleb. And over the vineyards was Shimei the Ramathite. And over the produce of the vineyards for the wine cellars was Zabdi the Shifmite. Over the olive and sycamore trees and the Shephelah was Baal-Hanan the Gederite. And over the stores of oil was Joash. Over the herds that pastured in Sharon was Shitrai the Sharonite. Over the herds in the valleys was Shaphat the son of Adlai. Over the camels was Obil the Ishmaelite. And over the donkeys was Jedeah the Meronothite. Over the flocks was Jaziz the Hagrite. All these were stewards of King David's property. Jonathan, David's uncle, was a counselor, being a man of understanding and a scribe. He and Jehiel the son of Hakmoni attended the king's sons. Ahithophel was the king's counselor, and Hushai the Archite was the king's friend. Ahithophel was succeeded by Jehoiada the son of Benaiah and Abiathar. Joab was commander of the king's army. This is the word of the Lord. So David's appointments, his allotments, his setting up of things to pass the kingdom on to his son continues to be recounted for us in today's chapter, chapter 27. It starts with the idea that David is going to establish the army, and he's going to have 288,000 soldiers, 24,000 per month for 12 months. He's going to make that even divide, even division across these 12 months. And he's going to set his mighty men as commanders of these 12 divisions. The first 3 months of the year, those first 3 mighty men, are among the top of David's mighty men. So if you go back to chapter 11, where we learn of the mighty men in the book of Chronicles, verses 10 through 25 are a lot more specific and detailed about a handful of men, whereas verses 26 to 47 are just a running list of a bunch of names of the men who round out David's mighty men. So these first 3, Jashabim, Dodai, and Benaiah, make that early list that we learn a little bit more about. So you can go back and read about those men again if you would like to do so. Jashabim, mentioned as a descendant of Perez, puts him to the house of Judah. We learn Asahel, verse 7, the fourth of these commanders, was the brother of Joab, and then we find out that his son Zebediah would command this group after him. That might be a note worth making because Joab is one of 3 brothers. Asahel, I believe, was the youngest of the 3. He was swift of foot, is the way he's described, and there came a time where he was chasing after Saul's military commander Abner, and Abner killed him. 2 Samuel chapter 2, so this is probably a reference to that Asahel's time in David's command was quite short. Zebediah would take that spot. Not sure there's a whole lot really left of these to discuss, although maybe verse 15, Othniel, so Heldai of Othniel, reference to one of Israel's judges, the first after the death of Joshua. Now, maybe a family question, conversation point. Why would God's Old Testament people, why would his nation have a rotation of armies? We saw the rotation of priests. We've seen now the rotation of the Levites and the musicians and singers and all the other, like the gatekeepers and the officers. Why have a rotation of soldiers? Probably a very similar pattern picture, although instead of having 48 or 24 groups that would do 2 weeks at a time, these are 12 groups doing a month at a time. This rotational basis gives these men the opportunity to continue to have their home life, their family life, to care for their business, whether it's a business in the market, if they're a fisherman or something like that, or if it's a business of agriculture, raising livestock or raising crops, whatever it might be that they do. The rotation would allow them to continue to do such a thing and not just have a massive army that the king has to provide for all the time, that he's constantly taxing the rest of the population in order to provide for such an army. God did warn that kings would do that, and they certainly do, but this rotation idea would lessen that requirement, that need. So we go from military divisions to tribal leaders, then we're going to go to various stewards and officials for the king. So we move into the tribal leaders, and we've got Reuben, whose leader is Eleazar. We've got Simeon, whose leader is Shephatiah. Levi, whose leader is Hashabiah. And then there's a minor note adding on that Aaron, the priestly tribe within the Levites, has its own leader set up as well. That would be Zadok, who is the chief priest. And then we have Judah, Elihu. Issachar gets Omri as the leader. Zebulun is Ishmael. Naphtali is Jeremoth. Ephraimites would be Ephraim, one of the sons of Joseph. That's Hoshea. Manasseh split into 2, both the group of Manasseh living on the west of the Jordan and those living on the east of the Jordan. So Joel and Iddo are the 2. Benjamin gets Jahaziel. Dan, Azarel. It's not the full list of 12 tribes, if you consider it that way. Even just keeping a finger count for you now, I only got to 11. And Joseph's 2 sons are both included. So it means 2 of the 12 original descendants of Jacob not making the list. Taking a moment to review that list, it's Gad and Asher who are missing from the list. And I don't know the reason for why. Just an observation that you can pick up on to yourself. All right, verse 23 notes that David did not count those below 20 years of age. So this counting idea is getting back to the census that King David took back in chapter 21, as we saw a week ago. And the age of 20 is Israel's age for war. So the men 20 and over would fight, and those under were not counted in that group. So David's census is being referenced. And he didn't count, right, those below 20, but he did count those above. Yahweh had promised that he would make Israel as many as the stars of the heaven. This is why David shouldn't have counted. This is a promise God had made to Abram in chapter 15 of Genesis, verse 5. And after changing his name later to Abraham, he made this promise again to him a few chapters beyond that, even in 22, verse 17. So Abraham heard it twice, and it's a promise that the Lord would keep. And Joab, the commander of the army, back in chapter 21, knew this and tried to talk David out of doing such a foolish thing. David insisted, and so Joab went. Joab did the work. However, because he was so frustrated with it, he did not finish the task. Yet wrath came upon Israel, so God still punished, even though the work was not ultimately completed. The number was not entered in the Chronicles of King David. That would be a different book than the book of Chronicles that we're reading now. Our chronicler here did record the numbers that were recorded, counted, 1.1 million in all of Israel, with another 470,000 in the camp of Judah. But then Joab stopped. He didn't count Benjamin, and he didn't count Levi in his counting. All right, then we get to the official stewards for the king. And these are going to be over all of the king's property, and it's quite a list. So he's got servants over his treasuries, different from the treasuries in the house, the temple of Yahweh. And these are just the king's treasuries, his storerooms, his wealth, which is primarily from his plundering of other peoples, like the Philistines. And he's got treasuries spread through the land, as his wealth is not all stored in one place. Then he has somebody who oversees the workers in the field that till the ground. He's got someone who oversees the work of vineyards and then the wine produced from those vineyards. He has somebody overseeing the olive and the sycamore trees and the Shephelah, which is a reference to the low country rather than the hills and mountains. He has someone overseeing then what comes from those, the oil that is made from those olives. He has somebody over the herds out in the pasture land of Sharon, which is a reference to the plains that are by the Mediterranean Sea, northwest of Jerusalem. He has somebody over the herds that are in the valleys. He has someone over the camels, over the donkeys. He has somebody over the flocks. You can see his wealth, right? He has stewards to manage all of these things for him, instead of him managing them directly, because he simply has too much. I feel like this sometimes, that I have too much stuff. No matter how much we seem to try to get rid of from our house, there is always more. And I don't know where it comes from. It just keeps coming. We have stuffitis in America, and it's not necessarily a sign of God's favor, as it was oftentimes for the Old Testament kings like David. What's David going to end up doing with all this? He just passes it on to his son. What's his son do with it? Solomon, who writes Ecclesiastes, who knows whether the man that comes after me will be a wise man or a fool. He'll get it all anyway. And that happens. His son Rehoboam is a fool and loses most of it. So it's just stuff. And then we get, in the last couple of verses here, a list of some of the advisors to King David. So a relative, his uncle Jonathan. We get Jonathan and Jehiel that attend to his sons, so that might be a reference to just overseeing them. The guardian language of Galatians that Paul uses, Galatians chapter 3, the idea that maybe they help raise them, help in their education, help in making sure they stay out of trouble, whatever it might be. Teaching them the way to rule a kingdom. He has an official counselor, so an advisor, and then he's got a strong friendship, Hushai, so a close companion friend and advisor. A couple of guys had to replace Ahithophel, might speak to how strong of a counselor he had been. And then Joab is commander over the king's army. We've seen that before in the book already. Might ask your kids, who else would advise the king, since we have this list of advisors? And what we're aiming for here is the list of the prophets who have served King David as well, who have served Yahweh to David. By speaking God's word to David, these would be advisors for him. If the king really wants advice, no better place to seek it than from God himself. And so again, prophets are good for that. We have seen the word prophet or seer attached to 3 men in David's reign: Nathan, Gad, and Heman. So Nathan is the one who challenges him when he has the affair with Bathsheba. And I believe he ends up naming his son after this prophet. He certainly named his son Nathan. And then Heman is one of the singers from the Levites as well. So King David has the opportunity to hear God's word, and that's a very useful and helpful thing to keep him in the faith.